Welcome to part 2 of the Expanding dELD Learning series. This video will highlight 3 elevation strategies used in Units 1 and 2 of the Expanding course. In Unit 1, you will find that conversation moves is embedded in various lessons. It is also the strategy highlighted to support students in the end of unit assessment. Vocabulary rating and Be a Detective are 2 elevation strategies highlighted in Unit 2. As you learn about or review each strategy, I challenge you to think about how these will be supporting students in any content area. Conversation moves are ways the teacher can facilitate the progression of a discussion among students without being the one doing all the talking. This chart provides language for the teacher to prompt students to remain or become engaged in the conversation. As an extra scaffold, sentence frames for responses are provided so that students can learn language forms needed to respond to each other appropriately. These conversation moves can also be used in any subject area, not just in the Expanding course.
I thought you have to use the whole percent of the initial value, which would equal 1.
Directed discourse provides those conversation moves that gives the students the sentence starters, the sentence frames to know how to carry out the conversation. So first, I look for an activity where students would benefit from practice and be able to talk with others about it. I also strategically place students in groups. We're gonna use an activity today called directed discourse, where you're gonna have an opportunity to come to consensus about your mathematics findings with your group. Utilize our conversation moves to engage in a discussion with each other. We are gonna focus on 3 conversation moves. So what's going to happen next is I'm gonna launch our table group discussions, and we are going to share our ideas and our findings. Our goal is that everyone is speaking during this conversation, okay? Everyone is to share at some point.
What kind of answers did you guys get?
Well, I started off with trying to find for the year 1850. I wasn't really sure. Did you do that as well, or?
I ended up finding the initial value and the growth factor.
I got a different answer because I thought that the equation was also asking for the year.
So what we are going to do now is we are going to discuss as a group. So how did using our conversation moves aid in your group's discussion?
The conversation moves from directed discourse helped us, help my group especially a lot because it was able to allow us to really, I don't know how to say it, to express ourselves.
Using the conversation move cards led to us going deeper into the equation and led to a deeper conversation.
I really think all students need the support in developing academic discourse, but there's very specific language moves, and students need to be taught how to have those conversations. And so it really helps them practice the language that's used when you're explaining your reasoning. With directed discourse and the conversation moves, students have a template and they have support to continue those conversations. Let's go ahead and share and re-clarify what were the parts of our expression that each of us had, and kind of share with one another to compare what I would recommend directed discourse to another teacher, because it's an activity that really supports teaching students how to have these academic conversations with rigor.
So our initial value is 54,500, right? And that's please divide it. No, yeah, by 100%, so that's 60%, which is 160, and then you put the decimal 2 to the left, which is 1.60. And that's how I got it.
The conversation move strategy from ELLevation was intentionally embedded in the first unit of the course. It supports students as they develop mastery in the concepts and skills of the priority standard, as well as in the concepts and skills of the supporting standard. These conversation moves are also embedded in the end of unit assessment, as well as in the end of semester performance task, so that students can use them. You should have received posters of the conversation moves for your classroom. Please reach out to your ELD TOSA if you did not receive them. Vocabulary rating is highlighted in multiple places of Unit 2 of the expanding course. You will see it in lessons 1, 7, and 19 of the unit. As you know, vocabulary is essential to language proficiency, enabling effective communication and comprehension. One's ability to communicate ideas and comprehend others can be greatly impacted by the breadth and depth of a vocabulary knowledge. Vocabulary rating guides are an effective research-based Tier 1 instructional strategy for assessing student prior knowledge about a term by having them individually score themselves on how well they know the vocabulary.
Irrigation. Anybody know that word? Irrigation. Irrigate. Okay, so what does that mean? Any ideas? You've heard it before then, right? To irrigate or irrigation?
Discuss.
Discuss? Yeah. Okay, let me use it in a sentence to see if we know, we can figure it out. Vocabulary rating allows students to rate the words on how well they know them. First, I select the words from a text, and then I create a graphic organizer. We're going to start today with doing our vocabulary rating for our story that we're going to be reading. I go ahead and read the words aloud so students can hear the words. Endure, guardhouse, barracks, sagebrush, irrigation, and Pearl Harbor. We're going to look at our words and we're going to rate them by what we know. 0 if you've never heard it. 1 if you've heard it but you don't know what it means. 2 if you've heard it but you can't use it in a sentence or explain it. And a 3 if you have heard it, you know it, and you can use it in a sentence. Let's go through these. Endure. Have we heard that one before? What do you think it means? To take in. To take in. Okay. It also means to last through tough times. So to give you an example, we need to endure 11 more days of school. What part of speech do we think that might be?
A verb.
A verb. How do we know it's a verb?
Then you could do it.
When they have conversations and they can use the word in a sentence, it really shows that they know what the word means.
The woman and the men signed up to work in a guardhouse.
So now that we've gone ahead and done our vocabulary, we are ready to read our story. Students are much more engaged when we do rating scales, and it gets them excited about some of the words that they already know. If they don't know a word, then they really have to pay attention. It gets them more interested and they have to be able to use it in a sentence. English learners really need to build their vocabulary so that they can have meaningful conversations and they can understand what they're reading. So to help support ELL learners, use pictures for the vocabulary. Sometimes they have them create their own pictures. I often pair students and have them discuss the words in context. I recommend this activity for other teachers because it really gets students engaged in their learning. I've seen my students' confidence levels go up when they're talking about vocabulary and when they're using the vocabulary because they understand what the words mean.
Vocabulary rating charts can also be used as a formative assessment or vocabulary development. Use it pre and post reading to easily assess where each student has grown in their understanding of the key vocabulary presented in the text you are studying. The third and final ELLevation strategy featured in Unit 2 of the curriculum is Be a Detective. It is presented in Lesson 7 of the unit. Similar to the vocabulary rating chart, Be a Detective is a research-based, effective Tier 1 K-12 instructional reading strategy.
Be a Detective is a very fun activity where you can have students preview what the unit is going to be about, preview what they're about to read. Your job is to actually become a detective. You are going to look at these pictures and you are going to talk amongst yourself and try to decipher what Unit 6 it's about, okay? To create the activity Be a Detective is actually very simple. Teachers would only need to put together a collage of pictures or even one picture and have students study that picture and talk about it, spark that interest on the topic?
I predict that the unit is gonna be about slavery because in the pictures it shows people running away for freedom.
The teacher would present a collage with different pictures about the unit that show the essence of the unit, and will have students predict and guess and look for clues in those pictures that will help them understand what the unit is going to be about.
I think there was people from slavery to get their freedom so they won't get separated from their family. In my opinion, that they're trying to escape and not have them mistreated.
Okay, guys, now that we've actually had the chance to look at all of these pictures and make our predictions, let's find out what Unit 6 is going to be about. I think that using the activity Be a Detective is very meaningful because it captures students' attention. It engages them. It makes them excited about this new unit. So it's a fun way to capture students' attention. The great thing about Be a Detective is that students are able to activate background knowledge by looking at pictures of the unit that's about to come. I think that, especially with ELLs, looking at pictures lowers your affective filter. It's something that's universal. It's something that all of them, no matter the language, will be able to understand, will be able to use to make those connections. The way to modify Be a Detective for English language learners would be creating a word bank so that students could also participate in those conversations and those predictions that are being made. It's a fun, engaging way to have students excited about the new unit that they're about to learn.
Detective theme activities can be an effective and engaging teaching tool in the classroom. These types of activities teach critical thinking and comprehension skills, and they encourage learners to collect clues, make inferences, and develop predictions, all vital skills in reading comprehension.